Well, you spoke several times before about ideological subversion. That is a phrase that I'm afraid some Americans don't fully understand. When the Soviets used the phrase ideological subversion, what do they mean by it?
Ideological subversion is the process which is legitimate, overt, and open. You can see it with your own eyes. All you have to do, all American mass media has to do, is to unplug their bananas from their ears, open up their eyes, and they can see.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
There is no mystery. There is nothing to do with espionage. I know that espionage intelligence gathering looks more romantic. It sells more deodorants through the advertising, probably. That's why your Hollywood producers are so crazy about James Bond type of thrillers. But in reality, the main emphasis of the KGB is not in the area of intelligence at all. According to my opinion and opinion of many defectors of my caliber, only about 15% of time, money, and manpower is spent on espionage as such. The other 85% is a slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American.
And oh yeah, I blame that fucking kid. What a little prick. Smirk face.
Nathan Phillips, the man who falsely accused the students of Covington Catholic High of racially motivated harassment, is a career liar. He lied about the kids swarming him. He lied about being blocked. He lied that the kids were looking for trouble, looking for something.
To such an extent that despite of the abundance of information.
Tonight we take a ground-level look at the effects of crime committed by illegal immigrants, many of whom have been deported multiple times.
He claims each illegal immigrant here, or someone here as a direct result, like a U.S.-born child of that person, costs the government $8,075 a year.
No one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country.
San Francisco has now announced that illegal aliens, people who have no right to be here, will be allowed to vote in local school board elections. You live in the city, you think this is a great idea.
What are we actually fighting for here at this event? Open borders. Yeah, right. And so this is a women's march, and so what do open borders have to do with being a woman?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
It's a great brainwashing process.
Donald J. Trump is now President of the United States. President Obama is the ex-president. And Mr. Trump, for the moment, steps away for the inauguration.
Which goes very slow, and it's divided in 4 basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students.
Adult supervision. Colleges. Calm down, young lady, please.
In the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology.
And with the stats showing just how left-leaning the halls of higher learning really are, how could you come out any other way?
All the statistics coming out of Venezuela, but the bottom line is the country has had a socialist government for over 10 years. It's become poorer every year despite having the world's largest oil reserves. Does that give you any cause to stop for a second and say, you know, maybe this whole socialism thing doesn't work that well? It's never worked anywhere. It's not working again. Maybe there's a lesson for me as a young American, no?
Is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students.
Well, Tucker, everyone in Venezuela, including the president, Nicolas Maduro, acknowledges that reforms are needed in things like food distribution and elsewhere. But very few, if anyone, in Venezuela want to go back to the pre-Chavez years of unbridled capitalism.
Without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism.
Yeah, I want to know when America was great. Well, Make America Great Again is a slogan, and so that's open for someone to interpret. When I interpret Make America Great Again, I don't interpret that as making it great again as a set time period. I interpret that as certain values that have been lost.
The result you can see. Most of the people who graduated in the 60s, dropouts or half-baked intellectuals, are now occupying the positions of power in the government, civil service, business, mass media, educational system. You are stuck with them. You cannot get rid of them. They are contaminated. They are programmed to think and react to certain stimuli in a certain pattern. You cannot change their mind, even if you expose them to authentic information, even if you prove that white is white and black is black. You still cannot change the basic perception and the logic of behavior. In other words, these people, the process of demoralization is complete and irreversible. To get rid society of these people, you need another 20 or 15 years to educate a new generation of patriotically minded and common sense people who would be acting in favor and in the interests of the United States society.
And yet these people who've been programmed and, as you say, in place, and who are favorable to an opening with the Soviet concept.
The only word we use when talking to the Trump supporters is the word no. That's the only word they don't understand and the word they most need to learn.
These are the very people who would be marked for extermination in this country?
Most of them, yes. Simply because the psychological shock when they will see in future what the beautiful society of equality and social justice means in practice, obviously they will revolt.
In 1917, the communists seized power. Lenin now had a chance to apply Marxism to real life.
They will be very unhappy, frustrated people. And the Marxist-Leninist regime does not tolerate these people.
Those who resisted were shot. There were terrible massacres against resisting peasants. And again, nobody knows exactly how many people died, but we're talking about 10 million or more.
Obviously they will join the links of dissenters, dissidents. Unlike in present United States, there will be no place for dissent in future Marxist-Leninist America. Here you can get popular like Daniel Ellsberg and filthy rich like Jane Fonda for being dissident, for criticizing your Pentagon. In future, these people will be simply squashed like cockroaches.
Well, if we're talking about recent examples, very often we are seeing right-wing groups and right-wing perspectives that are often the target of censorship. But these days, it is criticism of feminism, of radical feminism, it is men's issues, it is abortion debates, but very often these debates get shut down by well-meaning, but unfortunately not well applying student unions that use the wrong methods to defend their morals, which they see to be superior to the rest of us.
Nobody is going to pay them nothing for their beautiful, noble ideas of equality. This they don't understand, and it will be greatest shock for them, of course. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already.
Then in the name of preserving a safe space, these often left-wing groups will take it upon themselves to do things like bullying and intimidation and harassment.
For the last 25 years, actually it's overfulfilled, because demoralization now reaches such areas where previously not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts would even dream of such a tremendous success. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards.
There are, when we talk about third trimester abortions, these are done with the consent of obviously the mother, with the consent of the physicians, more than one physician, by the way. So in this particular example, if a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother.
As I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him.
We've heard this referred to as the culture of shut up.
Do you think that's an apt description of the kinds of divisions we're seeing nowadays?
Absolutely not. There are lots of things that contribute to a culture of shut up. The end of net neutrality contributes to a culture of shut up. Government silencing of scientists contributes to a culture of shut up. State surveillance of private correspondence contributes to a culture of shut up. Students protesting controversial speakers, that's an example of free speech. It's not the end of free speech.
Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he is going to receive a kick in his fat bottom. When a military boot crashes then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragic of the situation of demoralization. So basically America is stuck with demoralization, and unless, even if you start right now, here, this minute, you start educating new generation of Americans, it will still take you 15 to 20 years to turn the tide of ideological perception of reality.